Understanding emotional and physical abuse by fathers is a critical foundation for recognizing the signs of such abuse within the familial context. Emotional abuse involves non-physical behaviors that diminish a person's sense of identity, dignity, and self-worth, often through verbal attacks, manipulation, and controlling behavior. Physical abuse, on the other hand, entails the use of physical force that results in bodily injury, pain, or impairment. Both forms of abuse can coexist, creating a complex dynamics that deeply affect the child's psychological and physical well-being. The significance of comprehending this type of abuse lies in its pervasive impact on the victims, which can lead to long-term trauma and developmental issues. Recognizing these signs is essential in initiating early intervention, providing support, and ultimately preventing further harm. Emotional and physical abuse in a familial setting is particularly insidious because it disrupts the fundamental sense of safety and security that family is supposed to provide. For instance, in a real-world scenario, a father may employ harsh criticism and belittling language to undermine a child's self-esteem, while also resorting to physical punishments that leave lasting physical scars. Alternatively, a father might maintain a facade of normalcy to the outside world while privately controlling every aspect of a child's life, leading to isolation and fear. These examples illustrate how abuse by a paternal figure can manifest in both overt and covert ways, deeply impacting the child's life. There is a consensus among mental health professionals that recognizing the complexity of abuse is crucial for effective intervention. Psychology experts emphasize the subtlety with which abuse can occur, often leaving victims unaware of their circumstances due to normalized patterns within the family. However, addressing this issue is fraught with challenges. Cultural norms and stereotypes about paternal authority and masculinity often hinder open discussions about abuse, creating a barrier to recognition and intervention. Furthermore, legal and social systems may not always adequately support victims, particularly when it comes to emotional abuse. This understanding of abuse by fathers is interconnected with broader discussions on domestic violence and child protection. It influences the need for community education, policy changes, and the development of resources designed to support victims and rehabilitate perpetrators. Ultimately, increasing awareness and understanding of emotional and physical abuse by fathers establishes a critical first step toward healing and prevention, fostering environments where individuals can thrive free from fear and harm. Recognizing emotional abuse, key indicators, and behaviors is an essential component in understanding the broader topic of abuse, particularly by fathers. Emotional abuse involves a pattern of behavior that can negatively affect another person's mental and emotional well-being. Unlike physical abuse, it can be more insidious and harder to recognize as it often doesn't leave visible scars but instead erodes self-esteem through patterns such as manipulation, intimidation, and verbal assault. This type of abuse can include constant criticism, threats, humiliation, isolation, and neglect, creating an environment where the victim feels trapped, powerless, and dependent. The significance of recognizing emotional abuse cannot be overstated as it plays a crucial role in identifying unhealthy family dynamics that can have long-lasting effects on children and other family members. If left unchecked, emotional abuse can result in severe psychological issues, impacting the victim's ability to trust, form healthy relationships, and maintain a sense of self-worth. This understanding is a vital step in preventing further abuse and seeking appropriate help and intervention. Consider the example of a father who consistently belittles his child's efforts in school or extracurricular activities, labeling them as worthless or inadequate, regardless of their achievements. Over time, this erodes the child's confidence and sense of identity. Another example is a father using emotional manipulation, such as guilt tripping, to control family members' actions to serve his interests. This manipulation can create an environment of fear and obligation, leading the victim to feel responsible for the abuser's emotions and demands. Experts in psychology and family therapy emphasize the importance of recognizing these patterns as they can be precursors to more severe forms of abuse. Awareness and education play crucial roles in empowering victims to recognize the abuse and seek help. However, there are challenges and controversies surrounding emotional abuse. Some argue that the subjective nature of what constitutes emotional abuse can lead to misunderstandings or false accusations, complicating efforts to address the issue adequately. Additionally, cultural factors can influence how emotional abuse is perceived, with some societies normalizing certain belittling or controlling behaviors as part of traditional family dynamics. Recognizing emotional abuse intersects with other aspects of identifying abuse, as it often accompanies or precedes physical violence, making early intervention critical. Understanding and addressing emotional abuse can lead to healthier family structures and provide victims with the tools needed to break free from abusive cycles. By identifying key indicators and behaviors of emotional abuse by fathers, individuals and communities can work towards a more supportive environment that prioritizes mental health and safety. Identifying physical abuse involves recognizing and understanding the signs and symptoms of harm inflicted by a father, typically through violent or aggressive behavior that causes bodily injury or physical suffering. Physical abuse can manifest as bruises, burns, cuts, fractures, or other unexplained injuries. Additionally, consistent patterns of such harm, often paired with the abuser's attempts to control or intimidate through physical force, are indicative of an abusive relationship. Recognizing these signs is crucial, as it empowers individuals and communities to intervene, seek help, and ultimately protect the victims, particularly vulnerable children. The significance of recognizing physical abuse cannot be overstated. Early identification and intervention can prevent serious harm and potentially save lives. For victims, particularly children who may not be able to articulate their abuse, understanding the physical indicators is vital for seeking and receiving timely assistance. Furthermore, it raises awareness and sensitizes society to the reality and prevalence of domestic violence, encouraging a proactive approach in dealing with such issues. Examples of this could be seen in cases where teachers or pediatricians, trained to notice these signs, report their observations to Child Protective Services, thereby initiating investigations that may rescue a child from an abusive environment. In another instance, neighbors or community members who recognize physical indicators of abuse may reach out to local authorities, leading to necessary interventions. Support for recognizing physical abuse often comes from advocates for children and victims of domestic violence who stress the importance of education and training in identifying these signs. They argue that increased public awareness and institutional readiness can lead to more effective prevention and response strategies. However, there are challenges and controversies associated with identifying physical abuse. Not all physical injuries are the result of abuse. They may also result from accidents or rough play, making it difficult to distinguish between abuse and non-abuse scenarios without comprehensive investigation. Additionally, misconceptions or biases can sometimes lead to false accusations, causing unwarranted distress to families. In the broader context of recognizing both emotional and physical abuse, identifying physical signs of abuse can serve as a starting point for uncovering deeper, perhaps less visible, emotional abuse. It underscores the interconnectedness of various forms of abuse and the need for a holistic approach to addressing them. By focusing on physical abuse, we can also open dialogue about emotional abuse, emphasizing the importance of mental health and the need to address all forms of violence for the well-being of individuals and communities. The impact of abuse on children, encompassing both short and long-term effects, is a crucial component when discussing how to identify emotional and physical abuse by fathers. In essence, this concept refers to the various ways abuse can manifest in a child's life, both immediately and years after the abusive experiences. In the short term, children may exhibit behaviors such as anxiety, depression, aggression, or withdrawal from social activities and friends. They might struggle academically, showing reduced performance or lack of interest in school. Physically, they might experience unexplained injuries or an increased frequency of illnesses due to stress. Understanding this point is integral to recognizing abuse because the signs of impact provide crucial indicators that abuse is occurring or has occurred. These effects are often observable and actionable, prompting caregivers, educators, or community members to intervene. Furthermore, acknowledging the long-term repercussions, including chronic mental health issues, substance abuse, or perpetuating the cycle of violence, underscores the urgency of early identification and intervention. For example, consider a child who suddenly becomes withdrawn and fearful, particularly around male authority figures. Observing this behavior might raise concerns about potential abuse, prompting further investigation or support. In another instance, a teenager who struggles with forming healthy relationships or who exhibits self-destructive behaviors such as substance abuse might be dealing with the long-term impact of childhood trauma stemming from an abusive father. Opinions from psychologists and social workers reinforce the importance of early detection. Many professionals agree that the sooner abuse is identified and addressed, the better the long-term outcomes for the child involved. However, challenges arise in accurately diagnosing and understanding these impacts, as some behaviors can be mistaken for typical childhood or adolescent development issues. Additionally, there may be controversy over placing too much emphasis on the father's role, as abuse could potentially come from multiple sources, and the focus on fathers might sometimes overshadow other family dynamics. Nevertheless, understanding the effects of abuse on children connects back to the broader topic by highlighting the necessity of recognizing signs as a step toward prevention and healing. This awareness can guide caregivers, educators, and professionals in supporting affected children more effectively, providing pathways to recovery and breaking the cycle of abuse for future generations. Thus, the impact of abuse serves as both a signal and a motivator for protective action, influencing strategies for addressing and preventing abuse.